Imagine waking up at 3 a.m. to a desperate scream echoing through the mountains. A scream that lasts exactly 17 seconds. A scream that happens, without fail, every night at the stroke of midnight. And when you step outside to investigate, you discover the sound is coming from a cave that shouldn't exist on any official map. This is the mystery that has terrorized an entire village in rural Romania for over 30 years. And today, you're going to uncover the truth behind the midnight screams that no one can explain. Deep in the Carpathian Mountains lies a small village called Peștera Strigătului, which literally translates to the Cave of the Scream. For decades, the 847 inhabitants of this isolated community have lived with a phenomenon that defies all scientific logic and human reason. The cave is located about 1.5 miles from the village, in a rocky formation that geologists classify as typical Carpathian limestone. But there's something deeply unsettling about this particular cave. It doesn't appear on any official geological maps prior to 1991, as if it simply emerged out of nowhere. The first documented account of the scream comes from March 15, 1991, when the local pastor, Gheorghe Popescu, was returning from a pastoral visit. He heard what he described as the lament of 1,000 lost souls echoing through living rock. Gheorghe, a practical 54-year-old man who had served in the rural police before becoming a religious minister, was not one for flights of fancy or superstition. What made Gheorghe's account especially disturbing was its temporal precision. The scream started exactly at midnight and lasted a precise 17 seconds. This clockwork regularity would repeat in every subsequent report, creating a pattern no known natural phenomenon could explain. In the months that followed, other villagers began to report the same phenomenon. Maria Antonescu, a retired nurse, meticulously documented each occurrence in a personal diary. Stefan Kovac, a former miner, set up rudimentary recording equipment. All confirmed the same thing. A terrifying scream, always at midnight, always lasting 17 seconds. What puzzled residents most was the nature of the sound. It didn't resemble a human, but it also didn't match any known animal from the region. Those who ventured close to the cave described the scream as having multiple tonal layers, as if several different voices were screaming simultaneously, but at slightly different frequencies, creating a macabre harmony that pierced their bones and triggered a visceral sense of dread. The cave itself displayed inexplicable physical features. Its entrance was an almost perfect oval, measuring exactly 7.9 feet high by 5.9 feet wide, dimensions that remained unchanged over the years, resisting the natural erosion that should have gradually altered any rock formation. If just imagining this scream echoing through the darkness at midnight gave you chills, drop a "got chills" in the comments right now. And if you're brave enough to find out what really causes this terrifying phenomenon, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell, because in the coming minutes, we're going to reveal the most disturbing accounts from people who dared to step inside this cursed cave. Trust me, you won't sleep soundly after what's coming next. As the phenomenon of the midnight scream cave spread through conversation in the village, an atmosphere of fear and fascination gripped the community of Peștera Strigătului. What began as an isolated account from Pastor Gheorghe Popescu quickly transformed into a collective mystery, dividing the locals between skeptics and believers. In the first 3 months after the initial report, 17 villagers confirmed hearing the same terrifying scream. The pattern was always identical. At exactly midnight, a piercing sound echoed for a precise 17 seconds, coming from the direction of the mysterious cave. The temporal consistency was so exact that some residents began using the phenomenon as a kind of macabre nightly clock. Maria Antonescu, a 62-year-old retired nurse, became the unofficial chronicler of the event. In her meticulously kept diary, she documented each occurrence with scientific precision. Night 47, she wrote on April 30th, 1991. The scream started at 0000 and ended at 0017. The intensity seemed higher than the previous night. My dog Rex started howling 3 minutes before and didn't stop for over an hour afterward. Stefan Kovac, a former miner with 40 years of experience in underground acoustics, offered a unique technical perspective. I've worked in dozens of mines and caves throughout my life, he told the local newspaper. I know every sound the earth can produce: rock shifts, water flows, air currents. This scream doesn't fit into any known category. It's as if the rock itself is in agony. In June 1991, the village's Orthodox priest, Father Dumitru Radulescu decided to hold a nighttime vigil near the cave. Accompanied by 6 brave parishioners, he remained in prayer from 11 p.m. until 1 a.m. When the scream echoed at midnight, Father Dumitru described the experience as a lament that seemed to come not from the earth, but from somewhere beyond mortal comprehension. What disturbed the villagers most were the side effects of the phenomenon. Ana Petrescu, a mother of 3 young children, reported that her kids developed severe night terrors, waking just minutes before midnight, as if some primal instinct warned them what was about to happen. "They don't know the time," she explained, "but they always wake up crying between 11:55 and 11:58. Dr. Vasile Munteanu, the village doctor, began to document a significant increase in cases of insomnia, anxiety, and sleep disorders among the residents. In a population of less than 900 people, I recorded 127 cases of sleep-related issues in the 6 months following the first report," he noted in his medical records. The temporal correlation is statistically impossible to be a coincidence. The phenomenon also affected animal life in the area. Nicolae Georgescu, the local veterinarian, observed abnormal behavior among pets and livestock. Dogs start howling about 5 minutes before midnight. Cats hide. The cattle become restless. It's as if they sense something we humans can't fully detect. By September 1991, 6 months after the first account, the story had spread to neighboring villages. Curious people began making night pilgrimages to witness the phenomenon, turning the quiet rural community into a destination for mystery seekers. Some confirmed the reports, others claimed to hear nothing, fueling controversy and further dividing opinions on the phenomenon's authenticity. The most unsettling aspect was the absolute regularity of the event. Across more than 200 consecutive documented nights, the scream never failed, never varied in duration, never changed its timing. It was as if some unknown force had programmed this event to repeat with mechanical precision, night after night, defying all natural logic. As the mystery of the Midnight Scream Cave grew in notoriety, a small group of explorers and residents decided it was time to investigate the phenomenon in a more direct and courageous way. This marked the phase when personal accounts began to emerge, adding a human dimension to the terrifying phenomenon. One of the main protagonists of these investigations was Stefan Kovac, a former miner and self-taught man of science who had been exploring caves and mines in the Carpathian region since his youth. Kovac, known for his meticulous character and exemplary courage, became the central figure in the first attempts to capture the scream in action. Alongside Maria Antonescu, the nurse who faithfully documented each occurrence, Kovac organized nighttime expeditions equipped with recording devices, flashlights, and rudimentary sound analysis equipment. The first expedition took place on a cold night in May 1991, when the group waited near the cave entrance until midnight arrived. During that decisive night, each member felt mounting tension and a strange sensation in the air. As the clock ticked toward the fateful moment, a heavy silence dominated the environment, until exactly at midnight, the scream began. The intensity of the sound was enough to make the ground vibrate slightly, and seemed to come from all directions simultaneously. Beyond the terrifying sound, explorers reported a strange physical sensation, a tingling in their skin, deep chills, and a feeling of primitive fear, almost as if the scream was connected to an invisible ancestral force that reverberated through their entire bodies. Kovac, a man accustomed to the challenges of mining and exploration, later confessed that he had never experienced anything so disturbing in his entire life. The first personal accounts also described secondary phenomena: dim lights appearing at the cave entrance, rapidly moving shadows, and the impression of being watched by something unknown. These narratives began to draw attention to dimensions beyond the sound, suggesting that the cave phenomenon went far beyond a mere acoustic event. Meanwhile, the community began to divide. Some saw the group of explorers as courageous heroes, determined to solve a mystery that affected everyone. Others, more superstitious, believed the cave was a cursed place, a portal to a dark world that should be avoided at all costs. However, these initial reports were crucial in transforming a collective phenomenon into a personal narrative, loaded with emotions and direct experiences that made it clear something inexplicable and deeply unsettling was at work. With the popularization of these stories, interest in the mystery of the Midnight Scream Cave crossed the village borders, inspiring amateur researchers, journalists, and paranormal phenomenon hunters from across Europe to head to the Carpathians in search of answers. With the growth of international interest in the mystery of the Midnight Scream Cave, academics and scientists from across Europe began to focus their attention on this inexplicable phenomenon. What had started as local curiosity quickly transformed into a serious scientific case study. In July 1991, a multidisciplinary team from the prestigious University of Cluj-Napoca arrived at the village of Peștera Strigătului. The expedition was led by Dr. Mihai Ionescu, a renowned geologist specializing in karst phenomena, accompanied by a team of physicists, acousticians, psychologists, and engineers. Their mission was clear: apply rigorous scientific methodology to record the phenomenon under controlled conditions and find a rational explanation. The equipment brought by the university team represented the most advanced monitoring technology of the time. High-precision seismic sensors were installed within a 500-meter radius around the cave to detect any geological movement. Ultrasonic microphones capable of capturing frequencies beyond human perception were strategically positioned. State-of-the-art thermal cameras monitored temperature variations, while electromagnetic field detectors searched for energy anomalies. For 3 consecutive weeks, the team maintained constant surveillance, especially between 11:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m., the critical period encompassing the phenomenon. The initial results were baffling. Despite all the sophisticated equipment, no seismic activity was detected at the exact moment of the scream. There were no tremors, rock shifts, or any evidence of underground movement that could generate the sound. Analysis of the audio recordings revealed even more disturbing aspects. The scream wasn't a random or chaotic sound, as would be expected from a natural phenomenon. Instead, it possessed a complex harmonic structure and acoustic characteristics that didn't fit any known natural pattern. Detailed spectral analysis showed the sound consisted of multiple, overlapping tonal layers, as if several different sources were producing the scream simultaneously. Dr. Alexandra Popescu, the team's acoustic specialist, was particularly intrigued. "In 20 years of studying sound phenomena," she stated, "I've never encountered anything that so fundamentally challenges our basic understanding of acoustic propagation. The sound appears to originate from multiple points simultaneously, but our equipment cannot locate a specific source." The psychological aspect of the phenomenon was also subjected to intensive study. The team administered standardized questionnaires and conducted detailed evaluations on residents and expedition participants to map the phenomenon's effects on behavior and mental health. The results confirmed a troubling pattern: significant increases in anxiety, sleep disorders, panic episodes, and physiological reactions like rapid heartbeat and excessive sweating in the hours surrounding the phenomenon. Even more intriguing was the discovery that people with greater auditory sensitivity reported more intense physical sensations during the scream. Some described body vibrations similar to those reported in the M Cave case in Nevada, suggesting the phenomenon might have properties that affected the human body at levels science didn't yet fully understand. Attempts to reproduce or simulate the scream in laboratory settings failed completely. Even using sound generators capable of producing the same recorded frequencies, the results never triggered the same physical and psychological reactions observed at the actual cave. After 6 weeks of intensive investigation, the university team reached a frustrating conclusion. The phenomenon remained a complete scientific mystery. In their final report, Dr. Ionescu wrote, "Despite all our efforts and the application of cutting-edge technology, we are forced to admit that this phenomenon defies our current understanding of physical and acoustic principles. It may be that we are dealing with something that can only be explained when our scientific knowledge advances significantly." The team established basic safety protocols, strongly recommending that residents and visitors avoid approaching the cave between 11:45 p.m. and 12:15 a.m. to prevent potential physical and psychological damage. They also recommended that children under 16 and people with a history of heart problems or psychological disorders maintain a minimum distance of 200 meters from the cave during nighttime hours. Ironically, the scientific investigation, rather than solving the mystery, only confirmed its truly inexplicable nature, elevating the Midnight Scream Cave to the status of an internationally recognized scientific anomaly. Beyond the rigorous scientific analyses that failed to explain the phenomenon, personal accounts from those who had direct contact with the Midnight Scream Cave reveal a dark and deeply disturbing side, capable of leaving a mark on people's lives forever. One of the most striking witnesses was Elena Marin, a 22-year-old psychology student who joined an amateur expedition organized by mystery hunters from several European countries. Known for her rationality and skepticism toward the supernatural, Elena described her experience entering the cave just before midnight as a visceral encounter with primal fear. "I remember vividly the absolute silence that came before the scream," Elena recounted in a detailed interview months later, her hands still trembling as she recalled the events. "The air felt thick, heavy, as if something invisible was watching us from every shadow. When the scream began, it wasn't merely a sound. It felt like pure terror had found a voice. I felt a tightness in my chest, a sensation of utter despair that overwhelmed me. It was like some ancient malevolent force was warning us to leave and never come back." Elena said the effects lingered for weeks after her experience. "I developed severe agoraphobia and panic attacks whenever I found myself in enclosed spaces. I needed intensive therapy to regain a sense of normalcy. Something in that cave changed something inside me, something fundamental." Another deeply unsettling account came from local couple Jacob and Irina Popescu, aged 35 and 32, who tried to document the phenomenon for an independent YouTube channel. On the night they positioned themselves right at the cave's entrance with their filming equipment, they captured not only the terrifying scream, but also inexplicable visual phenomena. "Besides the horrifying sound, we saw strange flashes of light. They weren't camera reflections or malfunctions," Jacob explained, showing the shaky footage. "Small objects, stones, branches, were hurled from inside the cave by a force we couldn't identify. There wasn't enough wind to cause it." After the experience, Jacob developed symptoms similar to post-traumatic stress disorder, with chronic insomnia and recurring nightmares. "Every night I wake up exactly at 11:57 p.m., 3 minutes before midnight. It's as if my body's been programmed to relive that terror. It felt like something marked my soul that night," he said, his words weighted by deep fatigue. Irina added that, since then, she's struggled with a paralyzing fear of the dark and avoids going near the cave, even during daylight. "We've totally changed our daily routine. We take longer routes just to avoid even seeing the area around the cave. Our children ask why, but how do you explain something you don't understand yourself?" Perhaps the most disturbing story came from Anca Petrescu, a 26-year-old adventurer who nearly disappeared during a nighttime exploration. An experienced caver, Anca entered the cave during the scream, equipped with professional flashlights and communication gear. "I was about 15 meters inside the cave when the scream started," Anca recalled, her face pale even months later. "But this time, something different happened. While the sound echoed, I became completely disoriented, as if the space itself was shifting around me. The walls seemed to close in and expand at the same time. The shadows cast by my flashlight began to move on their own, twisting into impossible shapes." Anca described feeling lost in a maze that hadn't existed moments before. "I tried to retrace my path, but the tunnels had changed, or maybe my perception was completely distorted. I wandered for hours in circles, with my flashlight inexplicably failing, until I heard my companion calling my name from outside." The most unsettling detail from Anca's account came after her escape. "When I finally got out, my companion said I'd only been inside for 20 minutes, but my watch showed that almost 3 hours had passed. I still can't explain that time discrepancy." These subjective experiences show that the phenomenon of the midnight scream cave goes far beyond a simple acoustic event. It triggers profound changes in reality perception, distorts space and time, and leaves lasting psychological scars on those exposed to its influence. Dr. Vasile Munteanu, the local physician, documented a worrying pattern. People who directly experience the cave during the nighttime phenomenon display consistent symptoms: sleep disorders, generalized anxiety, agoraphobia, and in more severe cases, dissociative episodes. It's as if exposure to the phenomenon leaves an indelible mark on the human psyche. Many other residents and visitors began avoiding the area entirely, fearing not only the terrifying sound but also the invisible effects of prolonged exposure. The cave gained a sinister reputation that spread through the Carpathian region, and most locals treat it with a genuine mix of reverence and dread. This chorus of human accounts adds an emotional and visceral dimension to the mystery, elevating the phenomenon from a mere acoustic anomaly to an enigma that lies at the darkest intersection of science, the supernatural, and the limits of human psychological endurance. Faced with science's inability to explain the phenomenon of the midnight scream cave, Various theories and interpretations proliferated among residents, curious visitors, and amateur researchers, all attempting to make sense of the inexplicable. One of the most widespread explanations is rooted in ancient Carpathian legends. These stories tell of tormented spirits trapped in the cave depths by ancestral injustices or accidents, trying to communicate through the supernatural scream that echoes exactly at midnight. Local people claim the sound is the eternal lament of these souls, prevented from finding peace. Another school of thought focuses on the influence of ancient rituals performed by prehistoric peoples of the region. According to this theory, protection ceremonies or sacrificial rites left acoustic imprints and enchantments that still reverberate through the geological structure of the place, causing sound manifestations that defy logic. There are also speculations involving interdimensional phenomena. Ufologists and paranormal enthusiasts maintain that the cave could be a portal or temporal rift, connecting different dimensions or parallel realities. The scream would therefore be the audible manifestation of communication between worlds, perhaps a warning, perhaps a calling. Finally, darker theories suggest the presence of conscious predatory entities that use the scream as a strategy to lure unsuspecting travelers to the cave, like an auditory siren song. These creatures would be bound or imprisoned to the location, seeking vital energy or an opportunity to escape into our world. Some elderly residents claim the scream changes in intensity and tone depending on the number of people near the cave. Some believe this is an intelligent reaction, as if hidden forces are observing and interacting with visitors. Public discussion is divided between skeptics, who seek natural or psychological causes for the phenomenon, and believers, who see the cave as clear evidence of supernatural or paranormal manifestations. This clash between science and belief keeps the mystery alive, fueling new amateur investigations, documentaries, and debates seeking definitive evidence for one side or the other. This wealth of interpretations and theories further amplifies the fascination surrounding the Midnight Scream Cave, making the phenomenon one of the most provocative and debated enigmas in the European underground mystery scene. With all the fame and mystery surrounding the Midnight Scream Cave, it becomes essential to assess the real dangers and precautions that must be taken by anyone intending to approach or explore the region. The first and most important recommendation is to deeply respect the limits imposed by the phenomenon. Accumulated studies and reports indicate that prolonged or frequent exposure to the scream can cause severe physical and psychological damage, including chronic anxiety, insomnia, and even post-traumatic stress disorder. The region's topography presents significant natural risks. Uneven terrain, slippery rocks, hidden precipices, and unstable underground chambers. Inexperienced explorers face higher risks of serious accidents, such as falls and disorientation. Additionally, the cave has been the scene of unexplained disappearances, which raises the risk perception for all visitors. Even though the causes of these losses are subject to debate, the combination of mysterious aspects with physical dangers reinforces the need for absolute caution. Experts recommend that any expedition to the site should only be undertaken by experienced teams, properly equipped, and with constant communication with external bases prepared for emergencies. GPS navigation equipment, powerful flashlights, emergency sound signals, and medical kits are essential. The presence of a local guide, familiar with the terrain details and the cave's phenomena, significantly reduces risks. It's crucial to establish rigorous safety protocols, defining entry and exit times, well-marked meeting points, and redundant communication systems. The absence of these measures contributes to frequent disappearances and accidents. From a psychological standpoint, prior support for participants is advised, alerting them about the mental effects of the phenomenon and creating follow-up teams to minimize potential mental health damage. Finally, the scientific community and local residents strongly recommend that, given the potentially dangerous and unexplained nature of the phenomenon, the best course of action is to avoid the cave, respecting it as forbidden and mysterious territory. This preventive stance is fundamental to protecting lives and preserving the mystery intact until more objective answers can be found. If you made it this far and still feel chills from the Midnight Scream Cave mystery, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because this channel brings the most haunting stories from the depths of the world, and only the bravest stay until the end. Drop your theory or personal experience in the comments. Do you believe these phenomena have a rational explanation? Or is there something truly supernatural lurking out there? Share this video if you want to warn others about places best left unexplored. The legend grows with every view. Are you ready for the next mystery?